Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up and finish this object here. So if I go to my front view, you can see that we have about 3 buttons here in the front. So let's go ahead and create those. I'll use the circle object here and just create myself a circle right there. Going to go to the interpolation here, and I'm going to drop the interpolation. I don't need it to be so high res. So I'm going to go with maybe about 3 steps. Alright, then I'm going to come back to my perspective view here. Move that button forward. Convert it to an editable poly. Select that polygon, extrude it out just a bit like so. Doesn't have to be too much. Select all the polygons, and we're going to come down here and auto smooth this. And we're just going to put this in right there like so. We're going to come in here and we're going to make clones of this guy. Let's make a couple of clones. Okay, there we go. Now I need to work on the back. I do have some reference images of the back. If I show you here, here's a reference image of the back. I'm going to put the least amount of detail possible in the back because it's never really going to be visible, but I'm just going to place some of that there. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit V on the keyboard and go to a back view, then Alt and B to open up my viewport background settings. I'm going to choose my back image, which is going to be this one right here. And the image looks like it's a little bit off. As you can see here, let me see if I have a better image of the back. Probably don't. No, I really don't. So, I'm just going to have to stick with that one and make it work. Okay, I'm going to create another circle here for this back piece. And 3 steps is more than enough. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to convert that to an editable poly. Extrude this out like so. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to inset that. I'm going to inset it to about right here. I'm going to extrude that in. That's good. I'm going to go ahead and take that, that ring of edges right there, and I'm going to make one connection. I'm going to take that loop right there and push that in like so. I'm going to take that loop right there and I'm going to scale it up a little bit like that. I'm going to take that ring right there, I'm going to connect that one time, take those edges and move them forward like that. I'm going to take this ring of edges right there and I'm going to connect that one time. I'm going to go ahead and scale this in a little bit, maybe move it up a little bit. And I'm going to chamfer that one time, one segment's enough. Do something like that. Okay. I'm going to take all the polygons and I'm going to do an auto smooth to fix up the normals. And there we go. Okay, looks pretty good. I'm going to go back over here to this view. And I'm just going to go ahead and make some clones of this. And I know that they have to be repositioned. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make all the clones first. And then I'm going to reposition them. So there we go. So it's basically just more of the same, just cloning these little plug inputs. And those are all the ones I'm going to make. I'm not going to go too crazy with that stuff. I'm going to come in here and select all of these guys. And I'm just going to move them down a bit like that. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, there's still one more piece of detail to do in the front. If I go over here and I switch back to a front view, and I change my image back to a front view image, which I believe is this one. We have to do the Sony text. We're going to do it the same exact way as we did before. Go to the Creation tab, make sure you're in Splines, select the text object, just click right there. I know it's a little bit hard to see because it's white. That's okay. We're going to fix that in a moment. So I'll type in Sony. Again, the font that I'm going with is called Century, and I could do a search for it here. If I just type in Century it'll narrow it down. So Century Schoolbook Bold, I believe, is the one that I'm using. I'm going to place it about right there and just start to reduce its size until we get something that's a little bit more manageable right there. Okay, so something like that's pretty good. I'm not going to get too picky about it. And fonts, you can find fonts on the internet. Just do a search for fonts. There's lots of websites that sell fonts. Some websites have royalty-free fonts. So feel free to do a search when you get a chance and find some of this stuff. It's very useful and comes in very handy, especially for 3D modelers that are doing product design, things like this. Okay, so scale that down. Then I'm going to convert that to an editable poly. Going to come back into my perspective view here, move this to the front, select all the polygons, use the extrude tool options and extrude this just a bit, something like that looks good. I'm just going to move this in until it basically is touching the surface of my geometry there, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to go ahead and attach everything to it. So I'll go to attach and I'll attach all the stuff. Attach all this stuff in the back. Okay, one more thing left to do. I'm going to create some little, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. If I look through some of these images, let me see, this one right here, you can see that there's a little cylinder down there that works as a little bit of a stand. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that bottom polygon. I'm going to use the inset tool and inset about this much. Looks pretty good. And it's the same technique that I've used before. Okay, I'm going to use the circle object here. I'm going to create a circle. I'm going to snap it right there to that leg. I'm going to reduce its radius to about maybe this much. Looks pretty good. I'm going to convert it to an editable poly. Take the polygon and flip the normals. And I'm going to extrude it. I'm not going to go too far with it. I'm going to go to maybe about right there. I'm going to select all the polygons and go down here to the smoothing groups and auto smooth that. Okay. Next thing to do is just to go ahead and clone this guy and snap him to the 4 points down here on the bottom of the Blu-ray player. And once you're done, just take the Blu-ray player and attach all those little pieces to it. And that should do it. Okay, so that's going to do it for the Blu-ray player. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to Blu-ray player. I'm going to copy that name. I'm going to need it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to export this out. I'm going to export it as an OBJ. Paste the name. Save. These options are good. I'm going to hit export. Done. And this thing is complete. Alright, so our blue player is done. So we're done with this set of videos. In the next set, we're just going to continue working on the house. There's still more objects to go ahead and model and finish up.